Thanks for making it here early in the morning. Looking at some of those pictures of me years ago, I noticed something that was kind of missing now. Like all these characters I've been animating, Pocahontas and Rapunzel. It's like I'm making up for the lack of something in my life. I'm not sure what that would be. But I've got this strange belief that the characters that I've animated, created, designed, exist before I draw them. And that was the case with the Beast, which I'll show you. Like I didn't know what the Beast was going to look like. And my assistant, who is standing just like where Jason is, he didn't have a camera, but he said, "So what's the Beast going to look like?" I said, "I don't know. It's going to, I kind of like this buffalo-like head shape. There's kind of a sadness to the buffalo." And I had the buffalo head on my wall. Maybe that's why it looks sad. I don't know. But there's this bear-like body and the crest of a gorilla head, the gorilla expressive brow like that. As I was explaining to my assistant, I said, I like the muzzle of a wild boar with the hair coming back and these tusks that are coming up, and the beard, though, of a buffalo. But Belle's got to hug him, so let's give him a mane like a lion there. And the horns, there'll be sort of, and I've been studying a lot of different horns, and there'll be like a combination of these horns. And it was just like this. I was drawing it, just kind of feeling it out like that. And then I started thinking, but wait a second. Belle's not going to fall in love with this guy. This isn't going to work. Nobody's going to believe this. I'll give him cow ears. That'll make him a little friendlier like that. But inside, there's a prince trapped inside, and the eyes are the window to the soul. And so you can see the prince looking out from inside this body of this beast. And as I drew him, I said, "That's him. There he is." I mean, just as long as it took me just now to draw it for you, it did that day, and Beast suddenly appeared. And that's kind of the magic of creativity. I think the key to it is thinking like a child. There's something wonderful. This is my granddaughter Matisse, and she's drawing there. The secret to her drawing is either in that bottle of milk or the glass of Merlot. I'm not quite sure. But there was this little 6-year-old girl, and she said to her dad, "Daddy, where do you go all day?" And he was a professor of drawing at a university. He said, "Well, sweetheart, I teach big people how to draw." And she said, "Oh, you mean they forget?" Picasso said, "When I was young, I could draw and paint like Raphael, but it's taken me a lifetime to learn to draw like a child." If you watch him draw, it's a pretty wonderful thing. It's not rushed. It's as if he's having a conversation with what he's making. He's listening to it. It says, "Over here," and he responds. It's not a one-way thing. I think this is how, whether you are writing music, writing code, painting, drawing, whatever, it's a conversation you are having with what you are making. You have to be open to it. And drawing is a really interesting thing. like if you ask yourself, so what is drawing? If you hold a pencil is an amazing little tool. It's what I would say is, like the simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. You hold it, makes a mark at this end, and there's a line that goes straight down my arm to my heart, where what I feel, what I see, I can communicate to you. You can't see it. It's hidden inside of me. And for whatever it is that you're doing, we all have something inside of us that we are wanting to touch other people with. We're wanting to communicate it somehow. And the tools that we use to express that hidden thing are incredibly important. But this is really simple. And the simplicity, the clarity that the tool can communicate what is hidden is really, really important. If you look at my drawings look like that when I first animate. I mean, I think of drawing as a seismograph of my soul. It's like the line, it's just this explosion. So first I draw like this, and then it becomes like that as I tie it down. But it first started as that rough explosion. And I want to show this little clip from Little Mermaid, and it's back from the 80s, so it's ancient technology on video, and it's the pencil version of Part of Your World. It's just a little bit. But there's this one part where Ariel, longing to be up on the surface and not be down under the water, and she wants more than anything to be part of that world. And I was a 33-year-old guy, and I'm being a 16-year-old mermaid. And at a certain point, I realized Ariel wants to swim up straight to the camera, looking at the audience, and reach out, and then, drift back down. And I started getting kind of nervous, like, this is really cheesy. Everybody's going to know how sentimental I am. And I mean, I was like, I can't do that. But I couldn't stop Ariel. She did it anyway. So take a look at this little clip of animation.
Part of that world, what would I give if I could live out of these waters? What would I pay to spend a day warm on the sand? Betcha on land they understand that they don't reprimand their daughters. Bright young women, sick of swimming, ready to stand. I'm ready to know what the people know. Ask them my questions and get some answers. What's a fire and why does it, what's the word, burn? When's it my turn? Wouldn't I love to explore that shore above? Out of the sea, wish I could be part of that world.
Years after I'd animated that, so thank you. Thank you. So years after I animated that, I was speaking at Cal Arts, the animation department there, and one of the students came up to me and said, Mr. Keane, there was this animation from The Little Mermaid, and it's in Part of Your World, and where Ariel reaches out. I don't know if you remember. And I said, no, I remember that, yeah. Like, well, I was 4 years old, and I was in the movie theater, and as Ariel was reaching out, I stood up in the middle of the theater and reached my hands out to take her hands because she wanted to be part of my world. I said, thank you. Because the thing is, that thing that makes us us. As I was feeling funny, like I didn't want to do that because I felt like I was exposing myself. I was being vulnerable. And that part of us that is hidden, that's the very thing that you have to put out there. The thing that you think you're the only one that feels that way, that's what you have to go out and say. The thing that makes you kind of uncomfortable, like, what would people think of me? That's the thing that you need to do in whatever field you are in. At one point, Ollie Johnston, one of the mentors at Disney, he had done Pinocchio and Snow White and many of these films. He said, Glenn, you're going to do greater things than us someday. And I was like, oh, I wish he'd never said that. Like, I mean, how are you going to do greater than Pinocchio or Bambi or Fantasia? And I carried that around with me for, many years. And after about 40 years at Disney, I felt like something new was calling to me. I didn't know what it was. Behind my house, there was this field, and I took this picture of that little trail because I felt like that's my feeling right now, that there's something beyond, but I can't see what it is. But what am I going to do? I've been there 40 years. This is my life. How can I take that step? And my wife saw how I was feeling. She said, well, what would you do if you weren't at Disney? Where would you go? I said, I don't know. Google? She said, Google? They don't do animation. I know, but wouldn't it be cool if you took animation to some place that they don't do that? And I read this quote, until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back. Concerning all acts of initiative and creation, there is one elementary truth, that the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. A whole stream of events issues from the decision, which no man could have dreamed would have come his way. Whatever you can do, or dream you can do, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Begin it now. So I left. And the first thing that happened was Google called. And we came up here, and it's just amazing how something like that would seem so impossible suddenly was, because I took that step. And we were working with Regina Dugan at ATAP, and they had this new technology where you could animate and see your animation on a phone, and there's no limit to what you were doing. And it was at 60 frames per second, not 24. And we did this little film duet story about two little babies, a little boy and a little girl, and they keep crossing paths. And it's a circular story as they grow up, and you can follow one or the other. Regina described it as like a double helix. Instead of a linear story, it was like two spiral staircases. And I was thinking, I've never done this before. Picasso said, I'm always doing that, which I cannot do, in order that I may learn how to do it. It's such an important truth for us to get. Not knowing how to do something is a great reason to do it. Well, what's really important is the intention, the desire. Do you have a desire to do something? Do you want to accomplish something, but you don't know how? You've already got the most important part, which is the desire. It's about taking that step, and everything starts coming together. When we came up here to Google to do this animation, I had no idea, but found in working with this wonderful group of programmers, folks that were just as creative in their field as I was in mine. We started to work together. At night, I would teach them figure drawing, and then they would teach me about algorithms. And we did this little film duet, which I'll show you a little piece of here. theatrical version that you really, on the phone, you could watch the characters go any direction. But this, we had to cut it so it works in the theater. So that you can see the rest of it on and download the app on Spotlight Stories. By the time Kobe called and asked if I would animate a letter that he wrote to basketball called Dear Basketball, I realized that what Ollie Johnston had said to me, that you're going to do greater things than us someday, I was wrong about that, that he wasn't talking about greater in quality, he was talking about greater in application. To take the things that you learned and apply it in places and ways that Ollie and those 9 old men never could have imagined. And here was Kobe inviting me now into NBA to do basketball. As I told Kobe, I said, look, you got the worst basketball player on earth animating you. He said, no, that's good. That way everything you learn about basketball is going to be through studying him. And it was. So he wrote this letter, really from the point of view of a 6-year-old, thanking basketball for giving him, this little 6-year-old boy, his Laker dream. And I think that this is a wonderful truth, that 6-year-old version of you is still with you now. We all have that 6-year-old kid that had something to do with why you are sitting here today and who you are and what you are doing. That 6-year-old, that child that has that spark of creativity that is that essential thing, is still there. But sometimes we become so professional. We become so good at what we do, we forget. We forget who we are, that little 6-year-old. And so, listening to Kobe talk, I have a little clip here where Kobe is talking about hand-drawn, and John Williams, who did the music for it, is talking about thinking like a child. And it's this wonderful blend of these things that, take a listen here as Kobe and John talk. Apparently, Kobe can call anybody in the universe and get him to work on his film because he got John Williams to do the music for us.
I think there has to be a level of hand-drawn touch to it. You know, it has more texture to it. It has more soul to it.
It's so personal, this thing. Leonard Bernstein used to always talk about music and inspiration, and he would reference the idea that an artist should be always in touch with his childish self. The first 8 years before you really understood what was up and down, a sense of magic and a sense of discovery.
Right.
You know, when you reinterpret a piece of music or you conduct or sing or whatever.
The blank canvas.
That to bring that kind of openness and exposure of yourself to audiences is the thing that we get older, we forget how to do.
When we get older, we forget how to do. Here's this guy who's 86 years old, and he's talking about like hanging on to that thing. Like, don't forget that part of the adventure that you have as a child, the scary part. Like, I don't know how to do this. That's okay. Maybe that's what you really need. There's this element of fear that's always keeping you on the edge. I've always felt like the one thing we all have in common is that if anybody knew how much we're faking it, we'd all get booted out of here. That's how I've always felt my whole career. So I want to show you Dear Basketball. The themes of this child being still part of you as an accomplished professional are really what the message is underneath this. This could be called Dear whatever the field is, Dear Programming, Dear Architecture, Dear Basketball, Dear Animation. Let's take a look.
A one-point game. Bryant for the win.
Dear Basketball. From the moment I started rolling my dad's tube socks and shooting imaginary game-winning shots in the Great Western Forum, I knew one thing was real. I fell in love with you. A love so deep, I gave you my all. From my mind and body to my spirit and soul. As a 6-year-old boy, deeply in love with you, I never saw the end of the tunnel. I only saw myself running out of one. And so I ran. I ran up and down every court after every loose ball for you. You asked for my hustle. I gave you my heart. Because it came with so much more. I played through the sweat and the hurt. Not because challenge called me, but because you called me. I did everything for you. Because that's what you do when someone makes you feel as alive as you've made me feel. You gave a 6-year-old boy his Laker dream. And I'll always love you for it. But I can't love you obsessively for much longer. This season is all I have left to give. My heart can take the pounding. My mind can handle the grind. But my body knows it's time to say goodbye. And that's okay. I'm ready to let you go. I want you to know now, so we both can savor every moment we have left together. The good and the bad. We have given each other all that we have. And we both know, no matter what I do next, I'll always be that kid with the rolled up socks, garbage can in the corner, 5 seconds on the clock, ball in my hands. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Love you always. Kobe.
Thank you. That was a lot of fun. I knew nothing about basketball, but I got to say, after I animated it, I'd been studying Kobe's jump shot, and one night on the Lakers training court, I got out there and grabbed one of the basketballs, and I thought, I'm going to do this. I know how to do it. It's like you jump up, and you're leaning back. You got your left hip out a little bit. Your right hip is back, and then you 90-degree angle with your hand. I studied it all. I knew it. And I jumped up, and from way out, a three-pointer, and the ball was just like, I couldn't believe it. It was just straight for the basket, and it fell 10 feet short. But for a moment, it was so cool. So I want to leave you with this term, sprezzatura. It's a word that was coined about 500 years ago. And it was used to describe the difference between Michelangelo and Raphael. This was an art critic, and he saw that Michelangelo had such a knowledge of anatomy. It was all out there. It was on the outside. You could see all the muscles and the structure. And whereas Raphael, who knew the same anatomy as Michelangelo, it was all hidden. As he would paint the Madonna and Child, it was very smooth forms. And so he came up with this term, sprezzatura, that means art that hides its art. It's really the art of becoming invisible. And I thought, wow, this is really a pretty wonderful thing. That it means that taking that invisible thing inside of you and making it become visible, the better you are at taking that thing and making it become visible, the more visible it becomes and the more invisible you are. And that's the goal. It's not about you, it's about the thing that you're making. It's about you touching somebody else. And I don't think I really understood that until one day at Disneyland. I have a silver pass, so I can get in anytime I want. Comes after 40 years at Disney. So my wife had family and friends come out from Minnesota, and we were walking up to Disneyland, and there was a big line of people to get into the park, and they, our friends got in back of the line. I said, no, come on, follow me. So we walk up to the front of the line, and I pull out my wallet, and I realize I forgot my silver pass. I can't get in without. So I said, look, excuse me, I have a silver pass, but I left it at home. The guy said, sorry, you can't get in. I said, yeah, well, look, can you just look it up on your computer? Here's my Disney ID. And he said, no, sorry, can't do that. And our family friends coming around, what's the problem? I said, no, that's all right, it's all right. And this voice in my head is saying, don't do this. But I couldn't not. And I said, look, did you see Aladdin? The guy says, he didn't say anything, he just kind of looked at me. I did that designed that character, that was me. No reaction. I said, well, did you see The Little Mermaid? Still like this skeptical look, and I said, that was me. I designed animated Ariel. And still no reaction. And then I said, well, did you, and before I could even get the third one out, he said, look, I don't care who you are, you're going to get in back line like everybody else. There's all family and friends around there, and I said, I guess we got to go in the back of the line, and they're all following me, kind of like, yeah, Glenn, big deal. Yeah, I think they were really enjoying it. I was furious. Got in line, got up to the front, bought the tickets from the guy, thank you, and then went into the park. But I was just like, ugh. Okay, you guys go on a ride. I'm just going to have to, I got to cool off. So I sat on the bench, Disney park bench there, and along comes the beast, the park beast. And he stops and he looks towards me and he comes walking straight towards me and he sits on the bench next to me. So it's me and the beast. I said, hi, beast. I'm thinking, isn't this ironic? I designed you, I can't even get into the park. It's just like, oh. And then I hear this little girl, Beast, Beast. And she comes running straight up to Beast and jumps up onto his lap, hugs him, and starts kissing his tusks. I mean, the very tusks that as I was drawing them, I was thinking, Belle's never gonna fall in love with this guy. And here's this little girl just loving the Beast. That I didn't even understand that lesson of beauty is only skin deep. You know, that I didn't understand it, but now I did. And here's this little girl believing in the Beast. I never felt so invisible. Just so happy to be invisible. Beast was real. And that little girl saw him that way. And the rest of the day at the park, I had the best day of my life there. It was wonderful. And I think this is the thing, is taking that thing inside of us, translating it so you can see it, to touch somebody else. I'd like to finish with just this one drawing, except it's bringing technology into a new way of drawing. For me, I've never seen drawing as just a flat piece of paper. I've always imagined it as sculptural drawing, dimensional drawing. I think of it that way. So Google has this wonderful tilt brush that allows me to draw in virtual reality. And this is really the way I see it in my head anyway, that you don't see it this way, but I do. Thank you, Ulrich. Okay. And hopefully I don't fall off into the people in the front row there. Okay, Maestro.
Maybe he's right. Maybe there is something the matter with me. I just don't see how a world that makes such wonderful things could be bad.
Look at this stuff, isn't it neat? Wouldn't you think my collection's complete? Wouldn't you think I'm the girl who has everything? Look at this trove, treasures untold. How many wonders can one cavern hold? Looking around here you think, sure, she's got everything. I've got gadgets and gizmos aplenty. I've got who's-its and what's-its galore. You want thingamabobs? I got 20. But who cares? No big deal. I want more. I want to be where the people are. I want to see 'em dancing, walking around on those, what do you call them? Oh, feet. Flipping your fins, you don't get too far. Legs are required for jumping, dancing, strolling along down a, what's that word again? Street. Up where they walk, up where they run, up where they stay all day in the sun, wandering free. Wish I could be part of that world. What would I give if I could live out of these waters? What would I pay to spend a day warm on the sand? Betcha on land they understand that they don't reprimand their daughters. Bright young women, sick of swimming, ready to stand and ready to know what the people know. Ask them my questions and get some answers. What's a fire and why does it, what's the word, burn? When's it my turn? Wouldn't I love to explore that shore up above? Out of the sea. Wish I could be part of that
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.